Hello friends, I am Sharad Vaze, practicing chartered accountants for more than 38 years. I am also handling cases regarding to professional misconduct for my fellow brothers for the last 15 years or so. Now before I start for the lecture, I wish to clarify that I do not intend to stand for any election, nor this platform will be used for canvassing the candidature for any election. As told in my first lecture, this lecture series will be useful to the chartered accountants, cost accountants, and company secretaries as well as students of the final examination because the provisions relating to professional misconduct is identical in all the three statutes. How it is identical, we have seen it in the last lecture. Now today we are going to see the professional misconduct as to the procedure post 2006 after the law was substantially amended. The first is obviously who can file a complaint. I have categorized the complainants into four. The first category of complainant is the government, which is nowadays coming out with complaints against the professionals in quite a large number, especially various financial fraud that has come to notice of the government and the public has suffered financially or otherwise. So the government, as a central government, the complainant can be Ministry of Corporate Affairs, SFIO, Serious Fraud Investigation Office, the Income Tax Department, GST, etc. As well as at the state level, it can be VAT department or a state GST, or even it can be police authorities against misfeasance or misappropriation of funds by listed companies, especially fixed deposits collected from thousands of depositors. The second group of complainant may be the Reserve Bank of India, SEBI, Securities Exchange Board of India, various nationalized banks, as well as financial institutions. The third category of complainants may be our clients directly against the chartered accountant or a professional, or if the client is a company and there is a dispute amongst the directors, then one group of directors files a complaint with the against the professional along with other directors also, as well as if the client is a partnership firm and there is a dispute amongst the partners, then one group of partners may file a complaint against the auditor or other professional. The fourth category of complainants may be either our own employees, article trainees, audit assistants, or partners or even ex-partners have filed complaints with the institute. As to the procedure for complaint, the rules have been framed by the central government. I'll read out the name of the rule. It reads, Chartered Accountants into bracket procedure of investigation of professional and other misconduct and conduct of cases rules 2007. They were notified on 27th February 2007. The rules meant for cost accountants is the same rules except change in name. Instead of chartered accountants, the word used is cost accountants. Likewise, for company secretaries, Instead of the word chartered accountants, the words company secretaries have been substituted. Rules are of 2007, and even all the three rules were notified on 27th February 2007 under three different statutes. All these rules are 100% identical in its contents. There is no change whatsoever. Now, as to the procedure for the complaint, Rule 3 requires a complaint to be made in Form I. Actually, it is whether I or numerical Roman 1, I'm not sure, we use it I. And the complaint is to be submitted to the director. Director means director discipline of the respective institutes. Now, if the complaint is filed by a company, then there must be a specific resolution authorizing a particular person to sign the complaint in Form I and authority to deal with such complaint. If the complaint is to be filed by a partnership firm, then there must be a resolution by partners of the firm authorizing a particular partner to sign the complaint and deal with the complaint in due course. In case of complaint by government, either central government or a state government, the complaint must be approved by a person not below the rank of a joint secretary, and the actual complaint is to be signed by a person not below the rank of an under secretary. That means higher authority is prescribed to file a complaint. In case of other authorities like Reserve Bank of India, SEBI, or nationalized banks or financial institutions, then equivalent officer in these institutions, equivalent means joint secretary or under secretary, that equivalent in their organization are required to file a complaint before the respective institutes. The director discipline will receive the complaint. If it is complete in all its respect, will issue a unique number to the complaint. However, if there is any shortcomings, some lacuna is there, some information is not complete, in that case, he will inform the complainant to resubmit the complaint or to rectify the complaint before himself. That means complainant can sit before the director discipline and can rectify the complaint, or alternatively, he can resubmit the complaint. However, if there is no such resubmission by the complainant, then the director discipline will submit the papers before Board of Discipline, and with their concurrence, with the concurrence of Board of Discipline, the matter will get closed. However, if the Board of Discipline feels that the matter needs to be investigated further, the Board of Discipline will accordingly direct the Board of Discipline Director to investigate the matter further, even if there are some lacuna, shortcomings in the complaint filed by the complainant. Each complaint shall be accompanied by fees to be payable by demand draft or electronically, rupees 2,500 plus GST. Incidentally, the fees of rupees 2,500 is again same for all the three professional institutes. Now, if the complainant wants to withdraw the complaint before or after its registration, might be there is a settlement between the professional and the complainant later on, and the complainant is not interested in pursuing the matter further, then the director discipline may permit withdrawal of complaint subject to concurrence by the board of discipline. That means one complaint filed, it cannot be withdrawn by the complainant as a matter of right. It is at the discretion of the board of discipline whether to continue with the complaint or allowed to be withdrawn. It is not necessary that there must be a complaint in form I. Even you can inform by way of a letter to the institute, and when such information is received by the director discipline, he may ask formally to file a complaint to the letter writer or an informer. If the informer converts his information into a complaint, then the procedure as told earlier will continue. However, if the informer or a letter writer doesn't want to convert that information into a complaint formally, it does not matter. Nonetheless, the complaint or this allegation will be investigated by the director discipline. Now, what is the difference between the two? In a sense, in case of complaint, the complainant has a right to represent before the board of discipline or a disciplinary committee, and they are entitled to receive a copy of prima facie opinion as well as a decision of the board of discipline or a disciplinary committee and a final punishment awarded to the respondent, that is a professional. However, if the investigation is done on the basis of information and there is no formal complaint, then the person giving the information will receive only the final order and he has no right to represent before the board of discipline or a disciplinary committee. Even he will not receive the prima facie opinion of the director discipline. Now, after the complaint or information that has been received, then within 60 days of the receipt of complaint, the disciplinary directorate or director discipline will send the form I along with its enclosures or the information, as the case may be, to the respondent. Respondent here means the person who is required to respond against the complaint made by the complainant. So respondent is necessarily a professional, either a chartered accountant or a cost accountant or a company secretary. Now the respondent is required to give his written statement normally within 21 days, and extension is again generally granted depending upon the circumstances for reasonable excuses. This written statement is to be given by the respondent denying his allegations along with necessary evidence. He can submit the documents or evidences, whatever he feels in the written statement. Now, once this written statement is received by the director discipline, it is sent to the complainant again for any rejoinder, because it is quite likely that the complainant has filed a complaint based upon his understanding of a particular issue, and the respondent has clarified that issue with necessary evidence and support of any case law or accounting standards or auditing standards or secretarial standards, which the complainant may not be aware of it. So if the complainant receives this written statement, then if he feels so, he can give rejoinder against the written statement given by the respondent. Now, after having received the complaint, the written statement and rejoinder, if any, by the Director Discipline, he may call for additional information from either the complainant or the respondent or any third person, and he will come to a conclusion known as prima facie opinion whether the respondent professional is guilty or not. Please note, this is a prima facie opinion. Now, if the Director Discipline comes to a conclusion that respondent is guilty of any item or entry covered by Schedule 1 to the respective statute, the matter will be referred to Board of Discipline. If the prima facie opinion comes to the conclusion that the respondent is guilty of any item or entry from Schedule 2 or Schedule 2 and Schedule 1 simultaneously, the matter will be referred to the disciplinary committee. However, it is quite likely that the Director Discipline may come to a conclusion that the respondent is not guilty. Then he will give the information to the Board of Discipline, and if the Board of Discipline feels that the conclusion, prima facie opinion drawn by the Director Discipline is acceptable, the matter will get closed. However, if the Board of Discipline feels that the matter needs to be investigated further, then the Board of Discipline can direct the Director Discipline to investigate the matter further and to come back with an opinion again. Now, I had occasion of such two issues where in one case the Director Discipline has given an opinion that respondent is not guilty, and the Board of Discipline has confirmed and the matter got closed at that stage only. The issue was pertaining to year 2003 or 4, that is pre-2006 amendment, because after 2006 amendment there is a clause, if there is any violation whereby a professional is subject to imprisonment, it is a professional misconduct. We are going to see this particular clause later on in detail. So there was a case of a chartered accountant employee who signed a check in 2003 on behalf of a company of which he was a director. The check got bounced and the landlord filed a case under section 138 of the Negotiable Instruments Act for check bouncing. The Pune District Court gave a judgment and asked the company to pay 1,75,000 plus some fine which was paid by the company. Nonetheless, the landlord filed a complaint against the employee chartered accountant. That employee was a director, not employee per se. He was a director but signatory to the bank account, that it is an offense covered by Negotiable Instrument Act, so it can be subject to imprisonment. Therefore, the professional is a guilty and accordingly his name should be removed. Now, this had happened post 2006, sometime in 2008 or 9, because it took 3-4 years to get a decision on 138, section 138 under Negotiable Instruments Act. Now, when we received a complaint that there was an offense which has been proved because there is a court decision, Pune District Court decision, that there is a offense confirmed under 138 of the Negotiable Instrument Act, which is a punishable offense with imprisonment. So this is a professional misconduct. I could write at that time that the offense had happened in 2003. It is a criminal offense. So the law applicable is the law on the date of committing an offense, that was in 2003. So in 2003, this particular clause was not there. That means any offense which is punishable with imprisonment is a professional misconduct. This clause is added after 2006. It was not there prior to 2006. The Director Discipline accepted that the commitment of the particular offense was of 2003, and when this clause was not there, there is no professional misconduct, and the case got closed there itself. However, in another instance where an auditor, chartered accountant, did the concurrent audit of a particular bank and there was some fraud had taken place. The Director's Discipline, on the facts of the case, come to the conclusion that there is no prima facie auditor is guilty. He referred the matter to Board of Discipline for closure. However, Board of Discipline directed the Director Discipline to reinvestigate the matter again and to come with a new opinion whether he is prima facie guilty or not. Now, in the next session, we are going to see the actual procedure that takes place before the disciplinary committee as to the professional misconduct. If you like this video, if you like this lecture, kindly forward it to your professional brothers. Thank you very much.